I'm Angela Young and I'm the convener of the RSCDS Membership Services Committee, and I'm really delighted to be sharing with you tonight our brand new book and CDs, RSCDS Book 53 in 2023, and I'm really proud that I've got a copy here and that they arrived this week, which is great, and we're going to share about the content. As well as myself here tonight, you've seen we've got William, who's our chair, which is fantastic. Thanks for joining us tonight, William. But as well as that, I've got members of the Membership Services Committee who've been really involved in the project, and we've got some representatives from the different branches that are involved in the dances that were submitted. We've got devisers, we've got the people that have been involved in the videos, and we've got some of the folk that have been in the recordings as well, because we've got Nicole McLaren, who's recorded volume 2 of RSCDS Book 53, and we've also got Graham, who played on the David Oswald recording as well. So hopefully we've got lots to share with you this evening. So I'm just going to say that the main aim of this book was that we wanted to have a book that was for all dancers to enjoy. We felt that that was really important in our centenary year, that this is a book that you can all enjoy, that you can all, oh, somebody's just started screen sharing, so I'm afraid I'm just going to stop if that's all right. I'll just do that just now, there we go. And we felt that it was really important that we had a book that all dancers could enjoy. It wasn't a teacher's book, it's not a musician's book. There's content that every single member can enjoy, and that this is hopefully your centenary souvenir that you can keep and remember being a dancer in 100 years of the RSCDS. At the start of the project, we've had 97 branches, 236 dances submitted, 137 trial groups and of branches and affiliated groups, and that's all the people just at the start that were involved in RSCDS Book 53. As I said, the aim was to make sure that this is a book for all the dancers, and we started on this project 18 months ago, just in the November when I became convener. So it's been a lot of work for a lot of people, and really appreciate all of that. The submissions came from branches, and there was a email went out to all the branches asking them to submit dances, and as I said, we received 236 dances at that time. As the dances arrived, they were each given their unique identifying number, which stayed with them right through to the end of the process, and that meant that they really were anonymous all the way through. And I'm just going to share very briefly so that you can see it. I shared this earlier on this morning. Wherever it's gone on my screen, it's disappeared. Oh, here we go. And this was our Excel tracker where we saved everything that was coming in. And so we've got every branch that submitted a dance, every dance, in whether it was a jig, a reel, a suspect, whether there was permissions, whether there was any recommendations, if there was any information that we had. And as you can see, it was a huge spreadsheet, and it has been a lot of logistics involved in it, and the committee have done a fantastic job at managing that. And I'm just going to say that we obviously received answers from lots of branches, and going to hand over, hopefully, I spotted somebody that said something this morning at this point, so I'm just going to ask Anne Scobie of the international branch if she could tell us how the international branch went about submitting their dances. And I'll just ask you to unmute, Anne, if I can find you. There you are. There we go. If you could unmute and tell us about how the international branch went about choosing their submissions. Thank you.
So, morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for everybody. So for the international branch, we looked at our publication, our anniversary publication, Worldwide Weavings. And from that, we selected a jig, a reel, and a strathspey. And we were happy, very happy, that the jig, Chase Lovers, was finally selected. And as I didn't point out this morning, of course, I said, oh, well, it was a well-known dances in some groups, but of course it was anonymously selected. So even better.
Thanks, Anne. Yes, it was. What then happened is all the dances were put into the tracker, and the Membership Services Committee at that stage started working on what they did behind the scenes. So I have to say a huge thanks to Maureen Daniel and Paul McKnight, who were on the committee at that time with Keith Rose. And at that stage, they took all the dances. One of them took reels, one of them took jigs, one took strathspeys, and they made sure that you couldn't identify those dances when you got them. And that means that you couldn't tell that historical typeface that you know might have been John Drury's, or the wee bits of paper that were a bit faded round the sides that might have been somebody else's dance. They all looked identical going out. This morning we were also able to say that Luke was on the call this morning, our music director, and when we sent the dances out for the trials, this is the first time that we've actually included music with the dances as well. I have to admit that we made that commitment to send out the tracks for the trials before we knew that we had 236 dances. I think we might have changed our minds if we'd known that, but we made that commitment and we were delighted that Luke recorded them. And if dances didn't have an original or a named tune, we used a track from Ready and, so everybody was dancing to the same tune as they decided whether it was a good dance and how they would mark it. We got an incredible reaction as we got the marking back as well, and people picked their favourite dance or they gave it a score and made comments on whether the music, how the musicians in their class had gone about using it as well. As we went through them, we became aware that some branches had not just submitted locally popular dances and ones that were being recently danced, but some that went back a wee bit, dances that we would have called golden oldies. And I'm hoping that Ross Rawlings of the Bristol branch is on. I'm just having a wee look to see. There's a lot of you for me to scan down here. And let me just see, yes, Ross is there. I'm just going to unmute Ross. And Ross, if you could explain about the dance that Bristol branch submitted, because I think we might be surprised to find that it hadn't been submitted and printed by the Society at that stage.
Hello, everyone. Am I on?
Yes, I can hear you, Ross. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yes, it's a branch that was devised by Hugh Thurston back in the 1950s. For the local dancers, and it's quite unusual. When he originally devised it, you would have a chorus and sections that you could put the verses in, whichever verses you felt like doing. And they danced it like this for a while, but people got sort of said they'd like to know what they were going to do. So Hugh chose 4 figures to put in between the chorus. And it continued to be popular in the area when I started learning in Bath in the 1990s. It was the first sort of set piece dance that I encountered, and seemed like an awful lot of it at the time. And it's continued to be danced in the area, although fading somewhat in this century. So it was really good to bring it back to life again. Some of the dancers in our group knew it before, and one or two hadn't encountered it. So it was very nice to bring it back into it. And our last dance of term, we actually had the whole room dancing Schiehallion, which was a great success. It was wonderful to see.
So thanks, Ross. As Ross said, the dance that came in, and part of these that lots of us knew and couldn't believe hadn't been published by the RSCDS, was Schiehallion. And there were a number of these dances, and it didn't feel right that they went out in the same way. So we thought at that point that it would be a good idea for us to include them. We took the idea to the management board, it was approved, and we agreed that we would have a bumper book for our centenary. Dances that look back as well as forward, with some dances that have stood the test of time from the 1960s through till now, and with some great tunes and some newer dances as well. I'm going to ask, I think hopefully Keith Rose should be on the call as well. So Keith, could you explain a little bit about the process that went on at that point?
Hello, yes.
Thank you, Keith.
One of the first jobs to do was make sure that branches didn't get asked to comment on their own submissions. So we had to sort of look to see where the dancers were coming from geographically, and look to see where they were being tested, and make sure there wasn't anything too near. But of course, what is near in the UK or in Scotland is a very small distance compared with what goes on in the United States or Canada or Australia. Anyway, we did it. We also had occasions when the instructions which were sent out needed clarifying or improving or correcting for typing mistakes. So we had to make sure that when a dance was corrected, we sent it out to all those branches that needed it. The other thing I'd like to say is when the results all came back, thank you to all the branches and groups, and trialing groups that filled in the Excel spreadsheet as requested, because then it was just a simple matter to get Excel to analyze them all and correlate the results together. Those branches that put in their own additions to the sheets or sent them back in their own way, then we had to do that manually. But luckily, 75% of the returning branches, it was just an easy job to collate their results. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, it was one of those tricky jobs that I don't think any of us quite expected. How do you divide up 236 dances between 137 groups, make sure that they don't all get the same set of 6 so that they're not comparators are different, and there's a lot of mathematical Excel background going on between Graham and Keith and myself as we worked out how we could get that to work, but they really were completely anonymous and managed appropriately. Following on from that, they obviously went out to trial, we got your feedback, and then we got to the stage of having a kind of medium long list of dances. So Andrew Smith, would you like to explain about what went on the day that we all got together in St Andrews? And I'm hoping that's you, that's Andrew.
Yes, that's me. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, if you could unmute, thank you, and explain about our day together in St Andrews last year.
Well, during summer school, the Membership Services Committee and also drafting in a few friends met together, and we danced. We had a list of 39 dances at that point that we wanted to try ourselves. And so we danced through 39 dances, many of them more than once, as we tried things, as we found pieces in the directions that we maybe didn't quite understand. And so we were trying to work through that. And from that day of dancing, which I will say was a lot of fun, but really quite arduous. And I was just coming off of COVID, so it was slightly more arduous for some of us than others. That's how we were able to start seeing how the book might come together. And so I'll just say this, dances that weren't selected, it's not that they're not bad dances. Sorry, it's not that they are bad dances. It's that the whole point of this, as we said, we were trying to create something slightly different so that it was a book for everybody. It had what we had termed the golden oldies. It had newer dances, and it had this very wide geographical spread that we really didn't talk about quite so much this morning. But what was interesting was the wide geographical spread just sort of came about. We really didn't have to fiddle anything to get the geographical spread we have, which I think was wonderful, because when you see the list of books, I mean, the list of dances and where they are from everywhere. And I think that is a testament really to the strength of our dancing, the strength of our society, that we have these dances from everywhere. But that's how the book started coming together, with that day of dancing and realizing there were some things that were nice dances, but maybe just weren't quite going to fit into the pattern of the book, because we also wanted dances for newer dancers dances for experienced dancers, dances for in different formats and different shapes. And a lot of that actually came together. So it was a really interesting experience, but a very long day of dancing at summer school.
Thanks, Andrew. Yes, and if anybody was there that week, it was a Sunday, and you'd have found the Membership Services Committee with some extra willing volunteers in the old dining room, looking a little bit bedraggled by the end of it. Luke having played all 39 tunes and myself working through the sets of instructions. And I think it's important to say at this stage, those dances that didn't make it through this time, please don't anybody think that they've been disregarded, because we know there are some real gems out there and that we will go back to those in future years to come. So that's a little bit about the background, but what you really want to know is which dances are in the book. So I'm going to move on and tell you about the dances, and I'm going to include the branches that we've got or devisers that we've got and ask them to tell you a wee bit about their dance as we go through. And I'll go through them in mainly the order that's in the book. So the first dance in the book is the Loch Alshriel, and that's the dance that started that little trailer off that I played at the start. So the Loch Alshriel is from Skye. Then we have a dance that was devised by John Wilkinson, and I'm going to ask John to tell us the name of the dance that Edinburgh branch put forward and a little bit about that dance. If I can, I'm just going to find John on my list and unmute him. There we go, John. If you could tell us a wee bit about your dance, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Some of you will know that I've got always have a few bits and pieces of dances lying around, mainly formations or parts of formations that I think could be useful. That was the case with this dance. And then it all just kind of came together. It still had, when I first devised it, it still had a working title called Working Title, believe it or not. That was submitted to Edinburgh branch for their 90th anniversary book. And again, they'd gone through a similar process, I think, in selecting dances. However, they liked that one, and one of the ladies in the group, Jo Larkin, gave it the name The Water of Leith. They say it's because it flows. Well, the Water of Leith flows, we do know. So that's how that came about, really.
Thank you, John. And it's got a great tune by Graham Munro called The 2014 Grahams, and it's great. It's really lovely. So thank you, John, for that. And when we watch later, you've to watch out a little bit for the video that goes with The Water of Leith, which John, I think, was there training the team. I heard his helpful comments in the background when I've been editing it. So thank you, John, for that. So we've also got the Galloping Carousel, which is from the Ottawa branch. Baldovan Reel is the first of one of those dances that's been around for a long time, and that came in from Dundee branch, and that's a dance by Douglas Henderson, who was with the Dundee branch some years ago, but also danced in England as well, and was instrumental in setting up other groups. Bonnie Galawa is a dance from the Castle Douglas branch, and I'm hoping that Helen Weems, I think it is here from the Castle Douglas branch. I'm just looking for Helen. I'm hoping that might be you that's called Helen. Let's just see if it is. Yes, if I ask you to unmute Helen, there we go. And I know that you were good friends with the deviser of this dance, Helen. If you could tell us a wee bit about the dance, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
When the branches were asked to submit a dance for Book 53, here in Castle Douglas, there was no doubt about which dance we would put forward. And the dance, of course, is the Four Couples Strathspey, Bonnie Galawa, devised by Willie Little. And Willie lived all his life in Bonnie Galawa. He devised the dance in memory of Mrs. Margaret Ray, known to us here as Peg. She was the pianist for our branch for a long time and was also a music arranger for the society. And in my view, this is a really good dance because everyone is dancing most of the time together. It also contains one of Willie's favourite formations in bars 25 to 32, when the dancing couple make their way to the bottom of the dance. And we felt it was appropriate to put this dance forward because The RSCDS is 100 years old, and Willie, had he lived, would have been 100 in September. So it was felt very appropriate to submit this dance. Willie lived and breathed Scottish country dancing, doing such a tremendous amount to make sure that country dancing continued for the future. He had a very kindly manner when teaching and was well respected all around the world. And myself, I am personally grateful to Willie for guiding me through my teaching certificates and passing on his wealth of knowledge so freely, and for his love of dance. And I hope you will enjoy dancing Bonnie Gallagher.
Thank you so much, Helen. And I'm just going to have having a wee smile and maybe a wee tear in my eye as well, because Bill was one of those teachers that I just loved to play for. He had such a toothy way with him, and as an adjudicator, he was a delight to encourage every person on that dance floor and in his classes as well. And I have a very soft spot for Bill going back. And
But as you call him Bill, you call him Bill, but we always knew him as Willie.
Yes. What I was about to say was, I even forgave him for the fact he told me that my Straspe would never be as smooth and slow as my mother's, which was a lovely wry comment, but it was delivered nicely, so it was all right.
It was.
Anyway, so, lovely man. So Bonnie Gallagher is the Straspe from the Castle Douglas branch. Then we have the Luckenbooth brooch, which was submitted by Roxburgh, Selkirk and Peebles branch. Elspeth Gray's reel, which was devised by Tom Toriyama of the Tokyo branch, and it's a dance that he devised and dedicated to Elspeth Gray, the secretary of the RSCDS, for 14 years, from the year 2000 to 2014. And Tom's dance is accompanied by the reel Elspeth Gray by Muriel Johnston. Something in the Air, which came from the Washington, D.C. branch and is a two-couple Straspe. Then we have the Chaste Lovers that Anne told us about from the International branch. And then we have a dance from Nottingham, and it's inspired by the machines and the weaving in Nottingham lace. And the deviser of that dance, Jenny Bradley, sadly passed away just 2 weeks before the branch heard about the inclusion of this dance. But she was very particular about this, how this dance had to be done, and it had to be danced like the machines, very exact and precise. There's a link back with the book to the Golden Jubilee. And that is, if you noticed earlier on, the colours of the book and the cover. Some of you might remember that are old enough, in 1973, you might still have a copy of it, the Golden Jubilee leaflet, and it was a blue cover and the inside was yellow. And I never understood why you had a golden insert to that, but it was because it was the Golden Jubilee. A dance that was submitted at that time was Isabel by John Drury. But Isabel wasn't published in the Golden Jubilee leaflet. It was amended to become Mrs. Stewart of Fastnacoich. And we've included the dance Isabel's, that we had a dance about the founding of the society. And we're really glad to include this Straspe as it was originally devised by John. They then have one of two dances from the New Zealand branch, which are those dances that stood the test of time. This morning, Linda Glavin was on from New Zealand, and the dances are Seaton's Ceilidh Band and the Meeting of the Waters. Sarah from San Francisco, are you with us? I think you might be. You were going to be. I think you may. Yes. You were on this morning. Yes. Excellent. Could you tell us the name of your dance and a little bit about it and the inspiration, please? Thank you.
Sure. The dance is Toast to the Mousies. And it was inspired by the tune Toast to the Mousies, written by Keith Buchanan Smith. I heard it on his CD, Highland Shortbread, and it just makes me happy. I thought it needed a happy dance. It makes me so happy that I put a little clip of it on the alarm of my phone so that I always wake up happy. That works for me. I also like dances that have kind of a story to them. And Keith had told his story about that. It was when he and a friend were recording in his home, and there were some little field mice munching rather loudly, and they had to collect them and ship them back outdoors before they could continue. And so I started thinking about what mice do. And in the dance, there are hands across, which represent the wheels that are mousies that are actually pets and stay inside, the way they get their exercise. And then the other central figure with arches is about mice going in and out of hidey holes. So that's kind of where those came from. It was inspired by Keith's tune, and it was introduced at a Sunday morning Asilomar San Francisco branch's weekend workshop a few years ago.
Lovely, thank you, Sarah. So that's Toast to the Mousies that was submitted by the San Francisco branch. We've got the Orchards of County Armagh, which was that lovely strathspey that you heard in the little trail film at the start. And that was submitted by the Belfast branch, and Ginty Anderson, the deviser, was on this morning and told us how she came up with the dance. The dance has a lovely tune that was written by Judy Nicholson, who some of you will know, and the tune is called Sailing South, and it was about seeing the boats leaving Shetland as they sailed south. After the Orchards of County Armagh, we have a dance that was dedicated to a musician that's of long standing in the society. And it's a dance that goes back a few years. And I was delighted to talk to Jennifer Wilson about Jennifer's Jig as we put together the information for that. The tune for it was written by Drummond Cook, who sadly passed away in March this year. But his wife was delighted that we were including the dance, and Jennifer was able to give us some snippets of information that you'll find in the book. As we heard from Roz, we've got Schahalian, the medley, and then have we got Doug McDonald on the call again? I think we should have. I'm just having a wee search to see if we've got Doug here from, and maybe not, from the San Gabriel Valley branch. It was maybe just this morning we were going to have Doug here. Hold on, I know why I can't find him. That's because he's not under Doug, he's under Anthea. If I have another look, maybe not. Not for just now. So we'll maybe come back to that later. But the dance is called Niles Roberts' Farewell to Pasadena, and it was dedicated to a dancer from their branch. The Falkirk Lass. Now, have we got Ellie Briscoe here or Elaine Brunken? Who can tell us about that? I'm just looking to see which one of them's here. I think Ellie is here. Ellie, could you tell us a little bit about that, if I can find you here? Yeah, thank you, Ellie. Maybe not. Oh, I can't hear you, Ellie, at the moment.
How about that?
And is Elaine? That's better. And am I right in thinking that Elaine's here as well?
Oh, good. Talk to Elaine.
Excellent. Hello, Elaine. How lovely to see you tonight. Really lovely. So, could you tell us a wee bit about your dance? Thank you. Could you tell us a wee bit about your dance, the Falkirk Lass, please?
Sure. So this dance came about, Muriel Johnson wrote a tune for me. She knows I love strathspeys and I love minor keys. So she wrote the tune and she didn't tell me what it was. And I went over and I said, that's an amazing tune. What is it? And she said, well, thank goodness you like it because it's for you. So it was such a good tune. I thought it needs a dance. And it really is, you know, anybody who knows me knows I like to be able to just dance out with relatively simple formations. And so that's what the tune told me to do. And it has advance and retire for 1 bar each, which I love in strathspey time. And it's what happened as the tune played in my head. That's what my body told me to do. And that's how the dance came about. And this all happened when we were in San Francisco for, I think it was for Asilomar. We were either going or coming from the Asilomar weekend. And Kathleen McAdam from San Francisco always used, when she saw me, she would always greet me with, it's the Falkirk Lass, because we were both originally from Falkirk. And so that's how it got its name. So I was born in Falkirk, and I grew up in Scotland, and then came to the States. So I still think of myself as Scottish, and I still think of myself as from Falkirk. So that's how it came about. It was the tune. The tune made me do it.
Thank you, Elaine. It's lovely to see you and hear that. And yes, it's a great, great dance as well. So it's lovely to include that in your book.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good. So then we have, not too far from Falkirk, we have the City of Stirling Reel, which was submitted by the Stirling branch with a tune by Nicol McLaren. But strangely, Nicol didn't record the City of Stirling Reel for this, the CDs. He's recorded the dances on volume 2. And David Oswald had the challenge of playing Nicol's tune. I'll get him to tell you about that in a wee bit, I think, and when we talk a bit more about the bands. There's a strathspey called the Wilbergs of Rechberg, and the Wilbergs of Rechberg is from the central Germany area and was dedicated to Karen and Hans Wilberg, who started the Rechberg weekend, and we'll talk about that one a little bit later as well. I've noticed that we have a great collection of dancers who are at Pinewoods. Would you like to tell us about the dance that the Boston branch submitted, which is in book 53? I'll just see if I can unmute you as well. Bear with me. There we go. See if that works.
Hello. Yes, we are at Pinewoods Camp, and basically no mention any kind of event Pinewoods associated can go by without the Pinewoods Reel. It was devised by John Boyd Dixon. We looked up in 1976. Actually, go ahead. All right, he's the expert. I'm the videographer.
We're very happy to join you guys from Pinewoods, and this is a camp that's used by many folk dance organizations, and our Scots has been very happy to be here since way back when. And this dance was written actually in 1969. It was in July, and it was a Saturday. At that time, we only have a weekend. So the dance was performed in one of the dance pavilions in the evening ball, and turned out everybody loved it, and everybody just wanted to learn that dance. And in the evening, and as endearment, they put that in on Kaylee as well. And of course, John Boyd Dixon, the deviser, was on that. Mr. Dixon was, as I was understood, as a very small figure. So at the end of the Kaylee, they actually threw them into the pond as a term of endearment. So that was a great time. That dance, originally, Mr. Dixon didn't designate a specific tune, but he was playing Gatushka, that was played by Ian Powery on the records. So that tune stuck over the past 50 years. Of course, 1969 in July, the other big thing happened is Men Landing on the Moon. That happened to this Sunday after the Pinewoods Reel. So everybody was watching the moon landing. So we're very happy those two events happened, and you stay with us and we'll keep it going.
That's great, and thank you. It's so lovely to have dancers actually at Pinewood joining us. And I will share, just so that you know, we've been lucky enough to include in the book the picture of the dance as it was originally devised. I'll share that.
And on the card.
Excellent, and I'll share that picture a bit clearer later with you, but we've got that in the book as it hangs at Pinewoods where everybody dances. So thank you so much for joining us. So that's the dance from the Boston branch. We then have a jig in Schmickery and by Roy Goldring, and the last dance, but by no means least in the book, is a medley which has come from Helensburgh branch. And Roy Bain, would you like to tell us a little bit about that dance, please? I'll just find you. Bear with me. Oh, you may be unmuted.
Okay.
Great,
Are you
thank
hearing
Roy.
me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, the Porting Cape Oak was devised by Anne Thorne really for Ian Hall's 80th birthday. a number of years ago. Sadly, Ian is no longer with us, but the dance became quite popular in the Helensburgh area. It's a nice square medley, and the name Portincapel Oak. Portincapel is the hamlet that Ian and Halwyn moved to when they moved up from Manchester a number of years ago to live in the Helensburgh area. So we have the Portincapel Oak, Portincapel from the hamlet, the oak from the oak trees that are quite abundant in that area, growing naturally. The music for the dance was composed by David Hall, their son. The Strathspey is the shores of Loch Long, and the shores of Loch Long was really an extension of the garden of the house that the Halls lived in. So if you walked down the garden, you walked onto the shore of Loch Long, Loch Long being an offshoot of the River Clyde. The reel, to give it a wee bit of movement, was named after the Fiolin Burn, which runs off the hillside, fairly steep hillside, down into the shores. So that was the idea of the name for the reel. And so it's been popular in the area. I have to say that trying to organize it, I didn't say this morning, but trying to organize it, trying to get a camera person and get the deviser who was going off on holiday at the beginning of June for a big special birthday. She went off to Canada, and right now she's in France, so she can't be with us. Anne Thorne, who devised it. And we had a lot of minor hassle. We finished up, we had one day where we could get the team, the musician, the camera team, and the hall together. And we thought we had 3 months to do it. We finished up with one day, but we managed it. Thank you, Angela.
Thanks, Roy. And I love, there was one wee bit of information that came with the dance, which says that the oak produces the best acorns once it reaches the age of 80. And that's why it was also called Portincapel Oak for Ian's 80th birthday. And one of the members of Membership Services Committee at the moment is, of course, Ian's granddaughter, Emily Hall, who has joined us on Membership Services. I think you're with us, aren't you, Emily, tonight on the call? I don't know, we've landed you in a lot of hot water this year, joining us as we had this for your first committee experience, but I hope you're enjoying it as we go, and enjoying getting to grips with what we do there. So thanks to Emily for her work as well.
Delighted that Emily is now part of MS. Yeah.
Thank you, Roy. It's been great. So that's the last dance, and that's all the 24 dances in the book. So I'll just share with you, hold on, I was looking at what I was going to do next. So after we decided on the 24 dances, way back in September, October, we got in touch with every branch and asked them to supply information about their dance, about the deviser, the music, the place, etc. And also to be involved in recording their video, which we've got. But alongside that, we started on the recording process, and we recorded 2 CDs this year, volume 1 with David Oswald and volume 2 with Nicol. And I can see Nicol there on the screen. So Nicol, would you like to tell us a wee bit about your day of recording and where you recorded the CD and how it all came together, and a wee bit about the band, please?
Oh, well, we recorded it at Castle Sound with Stuart Hamilton in Pencaitland. It's a fantastic studio. Stuart is just a gem to work with. He just knows, I've worked with Stuart quite a few times, and he knows exactly what we're looking for in a sound. And the whole thing was a relaxing day. The band is, 6 of us have played together for a long time. The only difference to my regular band was that Dave Bell, my drummer, couldn't play on that day that we were recording. He couldn't get away from his work. So Robert Simpson, who has played with us often, sat in. And the whole thing gelled from the start. Yeah, so it was a very relaxing day. We were in quite well about 10 o'clock in the morning, and we managed to go for dinner at 4 in the afternoon. So it went well.
Good. Thanks, Nicole. And I think you also had the tried and tested dances that have been around for quite some time. So you had some really well-known tunes to play and find sets for.
Yes, most of them. There was 2 or 3 that certainly 2. I've never, for all those country dances I've played I'd never played for the Wilbergs of Rechberg, and I'd never played Isabel. But the rest of them were all ones that we've played, and have tried and tested bits for in the past.
And I think the recording says that as well, because it's just a great feeling on it. So thank you very much for that. And we've also got from the other band, we've got Graham here. He's here because he's my husband, but he was also on recording. Now, on David Oswald's recording on the band, we had Stuart Oswald, who's never actually recorded before. It was his first recording, but I can't say that about Graham's. So we'll see what he thinks about how his recording went.
No, indeed, it's probably not my first time in a studio, but certainly Stuart's first time in a recording studio. And I have to say he did extremely well. Stuart is David's youngest offspring, the youngest of 3, and been taking up the drums a few years now. Not a huge amount of time he's been playing the drums, but he's come on very quickly and is extremely good actually nowadays, and he did a great session. It was quite a different thing for him sitting in a booth with headphones on and being unable to sit in with the rest of the band and hear what was happening other than by the headphones. But he coped remarkably well. And similar to Nichols, we had roughly 6-hour day. We were in there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we got out maybe not quite 4 o'clock. It was maybe 4:30, something like that. But it was still a good day. We managed to put down the 12 tracks for the CD, plus another 3 or 4 of the band's own choice. So there's some bonus tracks for you to listen to as well. Yeah. And the same with Nichols' CD. He's in 3 or 4 extra CDs, extra tracks as well.
Yeah, which you can dance around your kitchen to. That's what I would say. Or you could use them at class if you really want to, but they're just fun to listen to. So thanks Nicola and Graham for joining us tonight as well. Alongside that, the committee got busy with the bit that nobody ever really sees in an RSCDS book, which is putting the dances into what we called standard terminology. And Ainsley, I believe you're on the call with us. Could you just explain a wee bit about that, please? Ainsley's also on there we go. You're unmuted. Thank you. On you go.
Hello, everybody. Standard terminology is a very dull document that the RSCDS hide away on the website and nobody ever uses. But whenever we publish something, we would like you to be able to read dance descriptions in some of a fairly uniform format, so they're a bit easier to work with. My first involvement with the project was when we had the final 24 dances selected. 3 of us agreed that we would do the standard terminology process. So Julie Granger, Jeremy Hill and I split the dances into 3. And then we went off and were downloading files which had the dance descriptions in them. No titles at this stage. They were still working with anonymous code numbers, which I don't know if it was an advantage or not. It probably was the right thing to do. And we made to try the words to be uniform, to be consistent in 4 or 8 bar phrases with the right descriptions of formations. We had to find the right words to describe the pieces of the dances that were not standard formations. And we also had to make sure that what we did not change the dance at all. We had to make sure our words were simple to follow, were understandable for anybody, wherever they were around the world, but the dance had to be exactly as the deviser intended. We did a little bit of cooperation with each other to make sure that we were looking over each other's shoulders so that we were consistent. And I believe the final result was 24 consistent but very varied descriptions of 24 absolutely wonderful dances. Thank you.
Thanks, Ainsley. And if I was to say, it all comes down to where is the A? Is it a half reel of 4 or half a reel of 4? You'll understand the detail that Ainsley and Jeremy and Julie were dealing with. And you know that's crucially important when you see the teachers poring over it and going, now where should that be? So yeah, thank you very much to
can I just say at this point, well. Any little glitches that anybody may spot once they've purchased the book, if you could refer that all to Angela, Julie, Jeremy and I would be absolutely delighted for you to do that.
And I'll be delighted not to receive them as well. Thanks, Ainsley. So I'm just going to share with you the cover of the book so that you can see it properly. Bear with me 1 second, and I'll just share so that you can see it. So there is our cover. The 100 there is made up of photos from inside the book. So there's one from every dance in that 100. And on the back, we have the word centenary, again using photos from inside the book with the RSCDS logo on the back. On the inside cover, we've also got a colour cover using some of those photos, and the map highlights places where we do have RSCDS branches, and similarly on the back with a picture of Mrs. Stewart and Miss Milligan and our patron as she was Queen Elizabeth II. The CDs follow on in the same style and have used the 100, and then on the back we've got pictures of the band and the track details. And inside the cardboard sleeve we use the layout that we used on Dance Through the Decades with an image for each dance, bringing it into a timeline. And then CD2 uses the reverse colour, and we have the yellow one for volume 2, and then again on the inside we've got a little timeline showing you photos from inside the book, one for each dance as they're identified. And inside the book as well, we find that you've got all the information that the branches shared along the way. And this is what makes it really a book that we feel is for every dancer and not just for teachers this time. And that was really our aim. We want you to enjoy this commemorative issue. So as we go through, and I'm only going to show you a little bit at the start, we've got, as you'll see, pictures and text that go for each dance and each piece of music. We've got a little bit about the composers, pictures of them, or the place where the dance is. So La Calche is obviously over in Skye. We've got the Water of Leith, as we talked about earlier on, and a picture of the Water of Leith and information about that area. And then, as is the RSCDS standard format, the dance instructions and music are still on pages opposite each other. And it carries on through, as you'll see. Going down slightly further in the book, if I'm just going to move down here, is for a first for us, we've also got a page on each band. So we've got a page about David and his band so that you can get to know the musicians behind the recordings. And later on in the book, we also have one on Nicol and his band as well. We've got a page, as we get to Isabel, we've got a page that tells you about Mrs. Stewart and the origins of this dance, but we've also got a little tribute and one page about the history and where we've come from and looking forward to where we could be in the next 100 years. Down at the other end of the book, as well as all the information, we've got, if I spin it right down. After all, I'm not going to let you see too much because we want you to buy the book and just be intrigued tonight. That's the aim. Is down a wee bit further here, we've got, there we go, there was the Pinewoods reel that we talked about, the beautiful picture from Pinewoods itself. And then right down at the end here, we have the diagrams that Keith has put together, and we've got the 2 pages of diagrams that you normally expect to have. We've got a list of the illustrations, and then hopefully this is really helpful for teachers that use recorded music. We've got a track index for the first time that points you to each track and which ED it's on, so that hopefully works for those teachers and classes that work with recorded music and helps you to find your way through that. As I said, as well as the book and the recordings, branches have been really busy putting together videos. And I know that we've got one of those dancers and devisers that was on their own video on the call. So just wondering if Tim Wilson could unmute himself as well. I'm looking for Tim, just trying to find you so I can invite you to unmute. Where are we?
I'm here.
You're there. Excellent. Yeah. Hi, Tim. How are you doing?
good afternoon, good evening. I am envious of those having wine right now. The edge off. But yes, I'll say it was a real treat for me to be able to dance for the video of my dance. So that was unexpected and enjoyable. And a lot of work with good coaching by Fred DeMars and Ron Wallace to get us all ready. We're two teams brought together and we met the morning of and did, a bit of run-throughs and then danced it all. And there was a great crew who was doing the videotaping from above and straight on, which I have no expertise with. So it was just a wonderful combination of people bringing all of their different talents together to make the videos come together. And we did two. We did mine and we did the Toast to the Mousies at the same time, because the international branch doesn't have an actual central location, and San Francisco branch kindly agreed to collaborate and do both videos together. So it was a lot of collaborating, a lot of coordinating.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, so Tim is the deviser of Chaste Lovers, and I'm just going to share a little bit of the video. It was really important for us that the videos were launched on the same day as the book and the CDs. So all the videos are available on YouTube now on the RSCDS playlist for book 53 for 2023, and you can also find the short trail that we've put together on YouTube as well. But just to give you a wee hint, and because we do have Tim, I'm just going to share a little bit so you can see the Chaste Lovers and get the sense of how the videos have been put together. So that gives you a hint of what you'll find when you go to YouTube. And it really is fascinating to see all the different branches dancing their own dances, and the work that's gone into finding locations, to making sure that couples are easily identified, and working with the recordings that we sent as well, and then sending them back, and making sure that those that did give us different camera options were put together. Although Bristol branch managed to even challenge me by sending me 6 takes with 3 different camera angles, which was an intriguing one to actually get together. So you can find the playlist now on YouTube, as I said. So if anybody's got any questions, that would be great. What I am going to say is, just very briefly, you can think about your questions, you can put them onto the chat if you want to as well. I'm just going to show you a moment as I can here, if I can just get this up 1 second, just find it. There was one branch that went that little step further, and maybe we'll get John to tell us just a little bit about the challenges that Edinburgh branch had in putting this together. Bear with me. Oh, wrong one, sorry. As Graham just tells me, you've just highlighted the wrong video, Angela, which is exactly what I did. More haste, less speed. Let's find the right one here. There, 2 down. There we go. If you can see the challenges that they might have encountered. Just here, there we go. I believe that the saying was, John, I think that the feet weren't the primary consideration that day. Would I be right if I'm saying that from your external? Yes.
First of all, getting a team of people together to dance outdoors on really hot days is quite tricky. The lighting was horrendous because it's either very bright or suddenly very dark because of shadow. But we decided we wanted to do it by the Water of Leith. And that's what you see in the background is the Water of Leith. It's quite challenging to get everything in place. And of course, we had tourists walking through and cycling through amongst us when this was going on, which we got some cones and laid them out to try and get them to go around the side and so on. But some of the takes that we did, you would see that there were people walking about and such like. Quite difficult circumstances, I think. And of course, I kept shouting.
I think it was always about hands up, hands down.
Yes, it was.
John,
It was
if
hands.
I heard rightly. Hands, exactly. So, but really lovely to have a different style of video. Graham finally spotted the cat that was sitting watching you this morning and enjoyed seeing that. So there's a gorgeous cat, and the jogger that nearly went through your set, but we don't have that in the finished bit, so that's all right. It's been absolutely a delight bringing the project together, and it's been 18 months that everybody's done. Now it's over to you. You can enjoy the dances, you can watch the videos. Most importantly, you can go and find the book. And I'm doing my QVC moment again. Both CDs on the shop. And the CDs are in a cardboard wallet, so you won't have the damage from the jewel case as it lands on your mat after it goes through the post box. And you've got on the inside the dances, and we've also got in line so that you don't get muddled up. The blue CD has a little blue insert inlay card that gives you some wee bits of information about each dance, and volume 2 has got, of course, if this is going to come out now, here we go, a yellow inlay card, so we've got that there. Just seeing if anybody's got any questions about anything. You'll find them on the RSCDS shop. As well as that, the instructions are already on SCDDB, on the Scottish Dance Database, and the index to formations has been updated, ready to go, hasn't it, Keith Rose? It's already there, it's been sent to Cecile, and hopefully it'll be online tomorrow. Yes?
Yes, that's true.
good. And I'm just looking, I don't see any questions coming up in the chat. Oh, Elizabeth saying that it was a slope up and down there and across the set for the Water of Leith. I can just imagine. Thanks to everybody. Just seeing if there's anything else coming in.
Hi, Angela.
Yes. Yes. Who's that?
Hi, Angela. This is William here.
Hi, William.
Hiya. Just wanted to say thank you to you, everybody in the MS committee, for all that hard work. I was on the committee with you before, and it's just colossal the amount of detail and stuff that has to go into these books. And of course, those of us who are a bit older will remember the free book we used to get with just a few pages and a few dances. And well, you're not getting this one for free, that's for sure. But it's well worth what you're going to pay for it, because it takes us into new realms for the society, stories, pictures, music, dancing, and so many members involved with this project. It's absolutely amazing. So please, Angela, thank everybody on the committee on behalf of the board and Gary and myself for what you've done with this book. It's available now in the shop. You can go and buy it, and the 2 CDs are just, you'll have you dancing around your kitchens in no time. So wherever you are tonight, whether you're about to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, or your late supper, as we call it in Scotland, keep up the good work, everybody. Great enthusiasm out there. We're on the move. We're doing well. So keep going with everything you're doing, whether you're a teacher, an organizer, or a dancer, or a musician. And the best wishes to you all for the rest of the summer, and we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, Angela, very much. And thanks, Graham, too.
Thank you, William, and cheers for getting us through this.
Cheers.
And the support along the way. Really appreciate it. Last bit from me, it's never ended. If you take a photo of you dancing any of the Book 53 dances, wherever you dance them, or if it's danced through the decades later, make sure you send your photos in so that we can have them for our next centenary publication that will come out next spring, when we bring together photos from around the globe. So make sure you get those into any comments as well are always welcome, and we look forward to seeing all these dances being danced in years to come. Thank you to everybody that's helped, all the branches and the committee who've put up with me, and everybody that's had their emails kind of flying in at odd times. Really appreciate it. And do get in touch if there's anything else that you need to know about Book 53. And just to play us out, I'll finish by playing the little trail that we had at the start again.